Hey guys, today we're taking a look at Stephen Goodwin's Black Rose Dragon deck. Now this deck will obviously be focused on plants and synchroing. It has a lot of interesting things going on, and it does have some things I think it can improve on, and as I get into the cards, I'll talk about some of the strategies and interesting things he's trying to do with it. So first off, he's running two Bird of Roses. So this one I'm still kind of debating. Obviously somewhat of a beater, but I I'm not sure if I completely see the use because people will see it and not, allow you to activate its effect to summon tuners. Activating, bringing out two tuners at once isn't exactly that useful unless you're XYZing, but you can do some interesting plays with it, like bring out tuners that will allow you to do a double synchro or something like that. But again, I'm still debating it because of that, ability that your opponent will know what to do about it. And then he's using two Blue Rose Dragon. So I think this card is very good for this deck. Specifically, keep an eye on anything that has like 1600 attack or 2400 attack or 800 attack because of Black Garden. So Blue Rose Dragon just fits really, really well with how the deck works. And then two Botanical Lion. So again, Botanical Lion with 1600 attack makes sense. This one is a pretty good beater in this deck along with 2000 defense. I really like this card overall, but it's tough because it doesn't really help you bring out Black Rose necessarily. I still really like it overall as a plant card. Two Copy Plant, really great card. You definitely want to be able to abuse this as much as possible with XYZ, so you can do a lot of really crazy stuff, and I'll talk about that a bit more when I get to his extra deck. And then two Gigantic Cephalotus. So this one's interesting that it becomes a pretty strong beater, as plant monsters get destroyed. But overall, it doesn't really help you do what you need to do. I'm not sure if I'd really run this just because of that fact that having a beater isn't necessarily how you're going to be able to win with this deck. But, I'm not sure of all the other higher level plants that you can use, in place of something like this. So still debating what he can do. And then two Hedge Guard, another card that I'm not sure if I'd really run, but he does need 3-star, cards like this to make certain plays with 6 and 7-star synchros. So there are, certain things he could do. I just really don't like Hedge Guard's effect, and I'm hoping there's other cards that might be able to replace that. And then two Queen Angel of Roses, somewhat of a new card. Can be very interesting that you can bring this out pretty easily and destroy things. This card I'm still, I'm not sure if I'm a huge fan of it, but it can, do some annoying stuff to lock down your opponent. But the problem is its attack is pretty low by itself, that a lot of your opponent's monsters will be able to, get over it and, ignore its effect. And then two Twilight Rose Knight. So this card I think is essential for this deck. Might actually want to consider 3 in this deck because it's so important for getting out Black Rose Dragon. So obviously a great choice for this deck. And then two Tytannial. So Tytannial is really good, but he doesn't have, too many ways to get this out. So I wouldn't really run 2 unless he maybe, runs things like Lone Fire and some other stuff. So that's just something to think about when you're running those higher level plants. And then two Witch of the Black Rose. I kind of don't like this card just because of its effect, because it can't be special summoned. You can't really abuse, a lot of stuff you want to do with it. I think you can focus on some better stuff. Having a 4-star tuner is pretty tricky with what you want to do when you want to run a lot of those 4-star plant monsters. And then 3 Black Garden, so making the deck very annoying to deal with and allowing him to get Black Rose back. That's a pretty big theme of the deck, getting Black Rose back pretty easily. So I definitely like it. Can annoy your opponent like crazy and really kind of overloads the field and sets up a lot of interesting stuff. Then two Lightning Vortex, sending things to the graveyard so he can special summon, so can be interesting. You can run other stuff for that. He might want to also consider, a Dark Hole or something, because he's going to need stuff that are kind of more essential, that are more that don't require other things like having another card to get rid of. And then two Mark of the Rose. I think with a Synchro deck, this is very good because it allows him to, make a lot of really good plays and just do what he needs to do. One Miracle Fertilizer, very, very good for this deck. Again, he can allow him to bring out those plants, synchro, or bring out Black Rose from the graveyard and all that stuff. One MST, probably want to consider more than one these days. Seed Cannon, I'm not really a fan of burn cards for this deck. I feel like he should focus more on just synchro and swarming. So not really my pick. If it was more of a focused plant and burn deck, I'd say that could be useful. The World Tree, really interesting card. I think it's definitely worth running in this deck because of all the plants that you're going to be using, especially with Black Garden. And then Blossom Bombardment, another one of those kind of burn cards that I'm not a big fan of just because it's not really the goal of the deck. Bottomless, Dark Bribe. I think I've talked about how I'm not a big fan of Dark Bribe, but I can see, why people would want to run it in certain deck types. One-Dimensional Prison. He's running a couple of the plant traps, Plant Food Chain and Pollinosis. I think they're both really good. Plant Food Chain can do some really incredible things with Black Rose, and Pollinosis just another really interesting counter trap that will supplement this deck pretty well. Scrap-Iron Scarecrow, not a huge fan of. I think he could run more stronger traps. Also Wall of Thorns, not a big fan of unless he's already running Mirror Force. So that's just something I'm going to throw out there, and he should probably consider. He is running 42, not a fan of that, but it's not a huge deal because 42 isn't that much over 40. But if he wants to focus, completely on synchroing, I think you might want to limit it down to 40 to get those card combos. So now for the extra deck, I'm just going to go quickly through it, running 3 Black Rose, obviously very powerful, and some additional effects that he can activate. He's also running Queen of Thorns and Splendid Rose. Both can annoy your opponent. Splendid Rose I'm not as big of a fan of, but Queen of Thorns can be really annoying when he sets up those synchros. He also has Stardust. You might want to consider other synchros, more generic ones, and other 8s if you can, because he can do some additional things with 1-star tuners. For the XYZs, he really needs to kind of branch it out a little bit. He's running 2 Big Eyes, 2 Utopia, Utopia Ray, and 2 Black Ships. Run more of the choices that you can make: Maestroke, Gagaga, Dracosac. You do have an ability to get out a lot of XYZs with copy plants, so definitely think about running more of a variety. So overall, I think the deck is pretty interesting. Not meant to be too competitive, more of a fun kind of Black Rose style deck, but I think there's a lot of things he could do. He did put a lot of this in the side deck, so these are things he already knows about, but I'm just going to throw out ideas for people looking at this type of deck. Definitely run Lone Fire. Run that definitely. Fallen Angel can be very good for setting up things. Botanical Girl for searching out. Debris Dragon, definitely run this to bring out your synchro. Easy Black Rose there, especially with Dandelion, which is another card that you should probably run. Spore. Any plant deck that does synchroing should run Spore. Just a really great card for this. Mystic Tomato can search out some things like Twilight Rose Knight, and it's also a plant, something to consider. Giga Plant also can do a lot of really interesting combinations. You could run Miracle Synchro Fusion and run Dragon Knight because he's running Twilight Rose, so those actually work really well. If he wants to abuse Black Rose's defensive effects, run Stumbling, Swords of Concealing Light, Book of Moon, things like that. There's a bunch of other stuff I could think about, a lot of other plant cards, but I don't want to get into all that. Just that I want to say that it's an interesting deck type, and I think there's a lot more he can do to make it really consistent. Maybe not to a completely competitive level, but to make it more fun, more synchro heavy, more focusing on Black Rose and abusing its effect and really messing with your opponent. So thank you to Stephen Goodwin for the deck submission. If you do have a deck you want me to go over, send me a tweet, hit me up on Twitter, give me a deck list, and I might show it off on my channel. But as always, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later.